Welcome to the deep dive. We pick a topic you want to know more about, look at it from different angles using various sources, and really try to pull out the key insights.
Yeah, that's the plan.
Today, we're diving into Ashley Madison, the online dating service launched way back in 2002 with that very direct slogan, "Life is short, have an affair."
Unforgettable, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what does this whole story, this saga, tell us about, technology, relationships, privacy, and what happens when it all kind of crashes together?
And we've got some really interesting material to work through today. There's the Wikipedia overview, of course. Then there's a Fox News piece on a new Netflix docuseries about it.
Oh, right. I saw that just came out.
Yeah, and Sportskeeda has a couple of articles, one listing people actually in the documentary, another on the Founder's Path, plus a Guardian article on the doc, and an interesting translated Arabic text.
An Arabic text. Okay.
Yeah, it gives a kind of historical view, especially on the platform and that huge hack.
Got it. So our mission today is to really unpack Ashley Madison. Like, where did it come from? The marketing, all the controversy.
The criticisms.
The criticisms, definitely. And of course, that massive 2015 data breach, the consequences, how they tried to recover, and what this new documentary is adding to the picture.
Exactly. We want to understand the key moments, the impact, all the different facets.
Okay, so let's kick off at the very beginning. Where did this pretty unconventional idea actually come from?
Right. So it was founded back in 2002. The founder was a Canadian-French guy, Darren Morgenstern.
And the name, Ashley Madison. Any deep meaning there?
Actually, no, apparently not. It was just created by putting together two very popular North American female names at that time. Simple as that.
Huh. Okay, so a straightforward name for a not-so-straightforward service. What was the spark? Why a dating site specifically for, well, affairs?
Morgenstern's insight or inspiration came from looking at existing dating sites. He apparently saw stats suggesting something like 30% of the people on them were already married.
Wow, 30%. Okay.
Yeah. So he saw this maybe unmet demand, a niche market. The first slogan they used was, when monogamy becomes monotony.
When monogamy becomes monotony, right. So recognizing something already happening and just building a platform for it. Did it take off quickly?
It gained some traction, yeah. By 2004, so just 2 years in, they reportedly had around 28,000 users.
Okay, not huge numbers maybe, but enough to show the concept had legs, even if it was divisive.
Definitely. It shows someone was interested.
Then things really seemed to ramp up. They got much more aggressive, more visible, maybe intentionally controversial. That's when Noel Biderman came in as CEO, right?
That's right. Noel Biderman became CEO, and his whole approach seemed very focused on, well, trying to normalize infidelity, or at least make the site much more mainstream, much bigger.
And the slogan changed under him.
It did. That's when it became the really famous or infamous one. Life is short, have an affair, much bolder.
Definitely sends a clear message. And Biderman brought someone else key into the company, too?
Yeah, Evan Beck. He was apparently a childhood friend of Biderman's. He came in as VP of sales. They seem to have been the driving force behind the expansion and the marketing push.
Okay, let's talk about the business model. It wasn't just like pay a monthly fee, was it?
No, it was different. Ashley Madison used a credit system, mostly for the male users.
How'd that work?
Well, a guy usually had to spend credits, I think it was 8 credits, just to start a conversation with someone.
Ah, okay. Just to initiate contact.
Exactly.
Okay.
But then, once you'd made that first contact, messaging back and forth between those two people was free. They also had like a real-time chat thing, but you had to buy credits for a certain amount of time for that.
And women.
Women could join and use the site for free.
Right. Which makes sense if you're trying to attract, well, mainly male customers who are paying. Get more women on the platform.
Precisely. It was a strategy to populate the site, make it look active, and appeal to the paying male demographic.
Okay, now the advertising, they weren't exactly subtle, were they? They seemed to actively court controversy.
Oh, absolutely not subtle. They used all sorts of tactics. Provocative TV ads, billboards that definitely got attention, radio spots pushing the envelope.
Yeah, I remember some of those.
And they even did some guerrilla marketing stuff, like setting up fake websites that looked like they were criticizing Ashley Madison.
No way!
Yeah, but then they'd have ads for Ashley Madison on them and maybe some anonymous testimonials saying how great it was.
Yeah.
Pretty sneaky.
That's audacious. Wow. And didn't they try some really big, sort of outrageous sponsorships, too?
They did. Really ambitious stuff. They offered big money for jersey deals with sports teams, I think in Italy and Australia.
Right.
And they even proposed renaming places like Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport, and the New Meadowlands Stadium in the U.S.
Seriously, did any of that actually happen?
No, pretty much all rejected. Too controversial. Even the Toronto Transit Commission apparently turned down their ads, saying it went against their values about, honesty and fidelity.
Can't say I'm surprised those bids failed. They were really pushing it. And all this obviously led to a ton of criticism.
Oh, yeah, constantly. People called it, a business built on the back of broken hearts, ruined marriages, damaged families, that kind of thing.
How did the company, or Biderman, respond to that?
Biderman often argued that the site didn't create cheaters. It just provided a place for people who were already thinking about it, that it wouldn't convince someone who wasn't already inclined.
Hmm.
He even made the pretty controversial claim sometimes that maybe an affair could help save a marriage.
Wow, that's a take. I imagine that didn't win over many critics.
Probably not.
They also had some kind of guarantee for a while. That sounded a bit strange.
They did, yeah. A guarantee you'd find someone or get your money back.
Huh.
But the catch was the conditions were really strict.
Like what?
You had to buy their most expensive credit package, be super active on the site for months, send loads of messages, stuff like that. Very hard to actually qualify for the refund.
Ah, okay. So more of a marketing gimmick.
Seems like it. They eventually dropped it in 2016 anyway.
And then there were those constant whispers or sometimes louder accusations about fake female profiles. Bots, right?
Yes, that was a huge, persistent issue. Lots of accusations that the site used automated fake female accounts, bots, basically, to lure men in, get them to spend credits, trying to talk to profiles that weren't real people.
Was there any proof of that?
Well, there was a lawsuit from a former employee. She claimed she was forced to create thousands of fake profiles.
What happened with that?
It was ultimately dismissed, I believe, but then when the data got leaked later, in 2015, analyses of that data did seem to show a huge number of accounts that looked very much like bots.
So the company denied it.
They always denied actively using bots, or claimed they'd phased them out by late 2015. But the perception, the suspicion that a lot of the female profiles weren't genuine, that definitely stuck around.
Okay, so we have this controversial business ethical questions swirling around, which brings us, inevitably, to the massive event, the 2015 data breach.
Right. The hack. It happened July 15, 2015. A group calling themselves the Impact Team claimed responsibility.
And what was their reason? Or what did they say?
They basically said Ashley Madison's security was terrible, and they announced they'd grabbed a huge amount of very sensitive user data. We're talking emails, real names, home addresses, sexual fantasies people had listed, credit card details, the works.
Oh my God, and they made demands.
Yes, they demanded that Ashley Madison and its sister site, Established Men, be shut down permanently.
Why? What was the main driver, according to them?
It really seemed to center on the company's data deletion policy. Users could pay a fee, I think it was $19, for a full delete of their account.
Right, to erase their tracks.
Exactly. But the Impact Team claimed that this full delete didn't actually fully remove the data from the company's systems. That seemed to be the main justification for their actions, this alleged deception.
Wow, so charging for a service they weren't actually delivering. Yeah, that's bad. And the hackers, they actually followed through.
They did. The first big data dump happened August 18th, 2015. Security researchers quickly confirmed it was real. And more data followed.
Including CEO emails.
Including No Biderman's emails, yeah. And crucially, the leaks included data from users who had paid for that full delete.
Proving the hacker's point.
It seemed to, yeah.
Yeah.
It showed their data was still there, still accessible. This wasn't just like a technical glitch. It was a fundamental betrayal of trust for users who paid specifically for discretion that wasn't delivered. It really showed the danger when services handle such sensitive stuff.
The fallout must have been immediate and massive. I remember hearing about blackmail, even. Suicides.
The consequences were huge, yes. Lots of users started getting extortion emails, pay up in Bitcoin, or we tell your spouse, your family, everything. And the suicide link. Toronto police did initially report some unconfirmed connections between the breach and suicides. At least one case that got a lot of press was later found to be unrelated to the leak, apparently due to stress from work issues.
But the potential was there, the psychological impact.
Exactly. The psychological toll was undoubtedly immense for countless people. It wasn't just names. It was incredibly personal fantasies, financial data linked to the affairs. That level of exposure is devastating, perfect for blackmailers, and just terrifying for the individuals involved.
And the leadership. Could Biderman survive this?
No. Amidst all the chaos and the public outcry, Noel Biderman resigned as CEO of the parent company, Avid Life Media, later in August 2015.
The company said it was in their best interest, I suppose.
Pretty much, yeah. Standard corporate speak for he had to go.
A complete PR disaster. So what did the company do then? How do you even begin to recover from something like that?
Well, the parent company, Avid Life Media, they tried to rebrand. In July 2016, they changed their name to Ruby Corp.
Ruby Corp.
And they brought in a new CEO, Rob Segal. His big focus, publicly at least, was boosting security on the platform, making it safer.
Did they change the messaging? That slogan?
Interestingly, they did it first. They shifted to something much milder, like Find Your Moment. But then in 2017, they actually switched back. Back to life is short, have an affair.
Yep. Back to the original. So maybe a bit of confusion about their direction. Or maybe they realized the original brand was just too strong, even with the controversy.
Or maybe controversy sells, even after all that. What about legally? There must have been lawsuits.
Oh, yes. A massive class action lawsuit was filed pretty quickly in August 2015, seeking something like $576 million.
Wow. How did that end?
It was eventually settled in July 2017 for $11.2 million. That was meant to cover all the affected users, estimated around 37 million people.
$11.2 million for 37 million people doesn't sound like much per person.
No, it really does in these large class actions, but still a significant settlement.
And yet, Ashley Madison still exists today after all that.
It does, which is kind of amazing, isn't it? By early 2019, they were claiming 60 million members.
60 million.
And that recent Fox News article, the one about the Netflix doc, says they now claim 85 million users globally. And apparently getting 4 million new signups a year? 85 million. That's staggering. How, after such a public damaging scandal, how do they still attract people?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Or maybe the 85 million user question. Resilience, maybe. Or perhaps the underlying demand they tapped into initially is just persistent.
Or maybe people have short memories. Or the new security focus reassured some.
Could be a mix of all those things. It's definitely surprising.
In this whole story, the hack, the fallout, it's all revisited in that new Netflix documentary, right? Ashley Madison, Sex, Lies, and Scandal, released just recently, May 2024.
Exactly. And it seems to feature quite a range of voices connected to the story.
Who's in it?
Well, several former Ashley Madison employees, Evan Back, the VP of Sales we mentioned, Mark Morgenstern, who was creative director and is the founder's brother.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, also Amit Jathani, a former product director, and someone named Kathy, who worked in customer service, plus, journalists who covered it, cybersecurity expert.
Law enforcement, too.
Law enforcement, yeah. And really importantly, people whose lives were directly hit by the hack, users, their partners.
That must be tough viewing. Hearing those personal stories, the Guardian article touched on that.
It did. The doc features a couple, Sam and Nye Rader. They were Christian vloggers.
Right. I think I remember their story vaguely.
Yeah. The breach revealed Sam had been using the site. The documentary apparently covers how that impacted them, how he initially didn't tell Nye the full story.
Oof.
And then there's an incredibly sad story about Kristen Gibson. Her husband, John, was a minister and professor.
Oh.
His name was in the leak. He lost his job because of it, and he died by suicide. Left a note about the shame.
God, that's awful. It really puts a human face on the data, doesn't it? Beyond the numbers.
Absolutely. It highlights the devastating real-world human cost.
The Fox News piece also mentioned Evan Back, the former VP, saying something in the doc about how the company was basically gambling with people's lives.
Yes, reflecting on the risks they took, promising anonymity and security that, well, clearly wasn't foolproof.
And the documentary explores the hackers, too. The Impact Team.
Apparently so. It looks into the mystery of who they were. Was it a group, one person, maybe even an insider? That theory gets floated.
An insider, wow.
Yeah, it adds another layer of intrigue. And of course, the doc hammers home that point about charging for deletion, but not actually deleting the data.
Right, that core grievance. It seems central to the whole narrative.
It really does. It confirms that full delete failure, adding that element of, corporate deception right into the heart of the crisis. It makes you think, doesn't it? If you pay a service to delete your data, do they really?
Yeah, good question. What about the original founder, Darren Morgenstern? He sold the company before the hack, right? What happened to him?
He sold it to Avid Life Media back in 2007. According to Sportskeeda, he then moved into the health and wellness space, became an investor, mentored startups, even did nutrition counseling.
Quite a shift from Ashley Madison.
You'd think so.
Yeah.
But then, apparently, he got involved as a director with a fitness company called Weight Loss Grants. And that company also faced accusations.
Of what?
Defrauding clients, mishandling personal data, revealing private info without consent.
Huh. So echoes of data privacy issues again. Interesting.
Yeah. He apparently keeps a pretty low profile now, married with kids. It's definitely an interesting trajectory, though, from infidelity platform to wellness, but still facing those kinds of accusations about trust and data. Makes you wonder if there's a pattern there and how user trust is maybe secondary.
Perhaps. Okay, lastly, let's circle back to that translated Arabic text you mentioned. What extra insights did that provide? Does it mostly line up with the other sources?
Yeah, largely confirms the main points. It emphasizes the huge scale of the 2015 hack, over 40 million users, super sensitive data. It repeats the hacker's demand for a total shutdown.
Okay.
It also talks about the early marketing, focusing on that marriage is boring angle,
Mm-hmm.
and how the credit system was the main moneymaker.
And it mentions the free membership for women.
It does. It highlights that as a strategic move because the user base was so heavily male. Offer free access to women to, well, make the site look more balanced and appealing to the paying men.
Makes sense.
It also mentions Noel Biderman's PR style, like appearing in public with his own wife while still championing affairs. The sort of uh, provocative public persona.
Right, the walking contradiction approach. Does the Arabic text add anything new about the hack itself?
It gives a similar timeline. Mentions the company initially trying to just carry on after the hack was revealed, then the full data dump on the dark web, how quickly it spread. It notes the public figures who got caught up and how quickly those check if someone is on the list websites popped up.
Yeah, those were everywhere for a while.
And tragically, it also recounts that story of John, the minister who died by suicide. It links his exposure, losing his job, the fear of his wife finding out, and the note about shame. Really emphasizes the human tragedy again.
What about the hacker's motives?
The text touches on theories about that too, suggesting it might have been more about ethics or social commentary than money. Like a form of hacktivism, maybe?
Okay. And does it comment on the site still being active?
Yeah, interestingly, the Arabic text mentions it being active with over 70 million users. Slightly different from the 85 million in the Fox News piece, but still a huge number.
Close enough, yeah. Still massive.
And it poses that ethical question directly. Was the hack justified, given the company's own deceptive practices? It also strongly highlights the misleading claims Ashley Madison made about security, about the full delete, and about the male-to-female user ratio, pointing again to all those fake profiles and bots interacting with male users.
So wrapping this all up then, we've traced Ashley Madison from its controversial birth through its huge growth, landing hard in that devastating 2015 data breach.
A breach that ruined lives, frankly, had tragic consequences for so many people, and raised massive ethical questions about the site itself and about the hack.
And yet, somehow, it's still here, still
Well,
attracting users.
it's remarkable. The human cost, though, that's undeniable. Those personal stories, the suicide, it's just brutal. And the motivations behind it all, from Morgenstern and Biderman to the Impact team, still feel complex, maybe a bit murky.
Definitely. So maybe a final thought for everyone listening to mull over. Thinking about everything we've covered, what does this whole Ashley Madison story really tell us about privacy now in this digital world?
Yeah, and what about relationships? How technology shapes them, exposes vulnerabilities.
And maybe what's the responsibility of these huge online platforms? For keeping our data safe, sure, but also for being truthful about what they offer, how they operate, and the potential impact they can have on actual human lives.
Lots to think about there.
It certainly is. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.